everyone, and welcome back to the surreal, bizarre, and perplexing Comic Vault. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And Eric, today we're going to talk about a request that came from Marie Flowers quite a while back. Finally, we're getting to this. I want to thank Marie Flowers for her help on Patreon and for requesting this book. This is a book...
related to Ramona Flowers?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Today, we're going to talk about Batman... We're going to talk about Arkham... I guess Batman's not the title, is it? Arkham Asylum, Serious House on Why So Serious Earth.
So, I can summarize this entire book in a joke. Batman walks into Arkham Asylum, and the Joker says, "Maybe you're as crazy as I am." That's the book.
Well, that was fun. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching. We sure appreciate it.
So, I've never liked Arkham Asylum.
I really enjoyed this conversation.
I've never really cared for Arkham Asylum.
Can we set this up just real quick? 1989. Am I right?
1989, yes, I believe.
Grant Morrison. Who's the artist?
It's Dave McKean, who's an artist that I don't
Yes,
like.
Dave McKean.
I'm not saying I don't like his art on this book, but he has done... I think he does the Sandman covers, and I like those. But sometimes his art is too abstract,
Yes.
and I don't like it.
I mean, I would say surreal before abstract.
I'm talking about his other art.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You would go as far as abstract, but like...
Yeah, stuff not in this book. I'm talking about like other things he's done. He's done... Like, there are pictures in... he does the illustrations for the Fourth Dark Tower book, and like... They vaguely represent the scenes that they're representing, but like only kind of.
Wow.
Like he doesn't draw them like this. Like he does like abstract maybe is wrong. Maybe it's more surreal.
Is it more surreal?
It's more surreal.
Is it cubism? Like what is it?
No,
like,
no.
It's still heads and,
right.
hands and stuff, right? Like
sometimes.
Wow.
But yeah. So I don't love his art. I like it here. But
I don't know if I like it as sequential comic art. I like it as
fair.
I like it as gothic imagery that I would maybe put on a wall or want to like dissect as a picture. Mm-hmm. And that's the big thing about this book is that it's more about the atmosphere and it's more about the way you're supposed to feel reading it than it is about telling a story. This
book to me, and it was a book that I read when I was younger, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this. Not like when I was super young, but like as a teenager, I read this, and I was like, I'm going to get this when I get older. And as I've gotten older, I realized what this. Also, both of our you don't have a physical copy, and mine's missing.
Yeah, so we read
we
this
have it on a
digital.
tablet.
Yeah.
What I realized was, this feels like somebody right out of college who just took like some philosophy classes and some art classes, and like, I'm gonna blow your mind. And I understand that some of
just throws it all up on the page.
Yeah, and I get that some of the ideas here might be the first. Well, even that Batman might be as crazy as villains thing is at least covered in Killing Joke.
Yes, absolutely.
I feel like this is a book that did some things for the first time or early enough that they were groundbreaking, but does nothing with them. It just puts them there.
This is an example of a piece that is important, but not necessarily a great piece itself, right?
Yeah.
It matters, it sets precedents.
Like, this is a book in 1989 you can hand to someone and go, this isn't what you think Batman is.
Right.
And then they read it and they go, this is not what I thought Batman was.
It also probably helped to popularize Arkham as a thing that we use all the time. I don't know if you would get as much Arkham without it. I guess I don't know. But is this the first thing that has Arkham in the title and that uses that as like the... Because this is essentially... the Arkham video game without the plot, right? Like your Batman goes into the haunted house,
and the villains took over,
and the villains have taken over, and he's going to each of the villains and ostensibly learning something about them or himself.
Yeah, like, and I've always had problems with some of the stuff we do with the villains. The big one is Two-Face.
I'm of two minds about it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. I have huge issues with Two-Face, and I always have. I can't get my head around.
I didn't do that intentionally, but I'm proud of it.
Yeah. I can't get my head around what we do. So, they talk about weaning him. So, he makes...
Which is an interesting idea.
Idea.
And by the way, an idea that Morrison got from a friend of his. He did not come up with that.
Okay. Here's my problem with it. You're making a decision between two things, and you have a coin. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. When they get him to a deck, does he know what every card represents?
Yeah.
That's what doesn't make sense to me.
The dice is a great idea.
The dice, but when you get to a 52 card of deck, does he know before he draws a card what every card means? Like this.
Well, it's weirder
is
than
he
that.
able to like think of 52 options, like 52 ways to go?
No, it's weirder than that because it's not a deck of cards; it's tarot cards.
It is tarot cards. You're right. It's tarot.
That's even weirder.
Yeah.
Because numbers could represent things. I don't know what every... I don't, like, he would have to have something that goes with every picture, and it's more than 52.
Mm-hmm.
A tarot deck is like 70.
You might be right. It's like 70. And but also, but like, so I really like the idea of like you've broken him mentally. He can't even decide whether he should go to the bathroom or not.
Yes.
I like that idea. The problem is, what are all of the other cards?
Yeah.
If there's a card that's go to the bathroom, a card that's not go to the bathroom, what are the other 68 cards?
What do you do with yes or no questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like a six-sided die would give you nuance.
Mm-hmm.
You have six choices.
The deck feels like it's too far.
And I like the idea that like the farther you go with that, you would eventually get to a place where you could just make a decision because you're getting past the black and white of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's gray area. I think 70-something cards is too much gray area. I would think that you could eventually get from dice to your brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Like, couldn't you go from dice to write down some possibilities and then
Pro and con list?
Yeah, where you just go, okay, and I guess that's what the die would be, where it's like each of the numbers represents a choice you could make. But couldn't you get to a place where you go, okay, here are 6 options, and I'm going to point to the one I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Can you eventually get there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need to go all the way to 70-something? I like the initial idea a lot.
I do too, but
then we're given. Sorry, go ahead.
But the deck thing has always tripped me up. Like since I read this when I was like 14, I was like, but what are they all?
Yeah.
Like,
it's even weirder when it's pictures, when it's like pictures.
Yeah.
When you get to the end, you get the sense though that it actually worked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Am I reading the ending right? Where Two-Face flips a coin, and we don't know how it comes up, and he lets Batman. Is that the idea? He lets Batman go, or I forget what the choices he makes. At the
I
end.
thought he reverted, but I read this like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, the way I read the ending was it came up Scarside, but he made the positive choice.
To let him go.
That's what I thought it was.
Okay.
Let me also back up for a minute and say, I cannot keep this book in my head. I don't know what it is.
You've read it
I've
3
read
times.
it 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and I can't, like, I have not felt prepared to make this video. And I put the video off. Eric and I were going to shoot this 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I put the video off because I could not remember enough of what happens in this book. And I felt bad, and I didn't want to make a bad video. So I was like, okay, I'm going to prepare more. I'm as prepared as I can be. It just doesn't stay in my head.
Can I say that part of that? Well, first of all, he intentionally says he's going for like a dreamlike quality, which hurts it structurally and narratively because there isn't really a story.
And some of it's effective visually.
But it's a
how
lot
it
of
makes you feel.
like Batman walks into a scene and we have a page of this is Scarecrow, and then we have a page of this is Killer Croc, and then we have a page, and so like none of it means anything, and like it doesn't come together as like a piece.
I think part of the mistake with that is too much text on a page for a thing that is supposed to be so art-driven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the art's not descriptive enough. Like, I wouldn't be able to read this book without words.
True. Would it almost be better as a... Because one thing I said I'm as prepared as I can be. Maybe I should have just read the script, because the script that is included with the version that we read. I guess I didn't do that. But what I'm wondering is if this might not have been more effective if it was written as a novella with art. Where you have
and he
all
did the issue of Batman like that.
Yeah.
In fact, the issue of Batman he does like that is the Joker Metamorphosis issue. It's the one where he becomes the Joker that he's going to be for the rest of Morrison's run. That's set in Arkham.
Is that during R.I.P.?
No, that's before R.I.P.
Oh, interesting.
That's in, I think it's in that first trade, the Batman Son.
Yeah.
If it's not, it's in Black Glove. I think it's in Batman Son. Because I think that's the one that immediately precedes the Damian in the future as Batman.
I have read that.
Yeah, and that's telling a story like this, but better because it's in prose.
Because this is so surrealistic and it's difficult to tell what's going on the page, it would be better if it wasn't presented as sequential art. I almost think you'd be better off with every page being a full page spread, and in the margin you get all the text and it's just written as prose. and write it in kind of like a Lovecraftian style or something, I think you'd be better off that way.
I should also say, at the top, or we're past the top, but at the top, I don't like these kinds of things. I don't think I knew that when I was a kid.
I don't generally either.
But, or as a teenager.
Let me say, I don't hate this book, and I don't hate everything about it. I just don't always know what I'm looking at. It's frustrating, and...
I don't like surreal storytelling, because it barely counts as storytelling. You're not telling stories. You might be exploring concepts and ideas. You're not telling stories. And this almost is a story. Like, there is an ending, and there's a beginning, and everything in between is kind of whatever it wants to be.
And that's part of the problem with it, though, is it's trying to have its cake and eat it, too. I think the first thing that you described, it might not be your cup of tea, but I think it's valid. You see what I'm saying? I think if you don't present it as a traditional narrative, and like this isn't just a bookend. This wants to be a story. Have you ever read, I brought this up before, you ever read Carnage, It's a Wonderful Life?
No.
That's more like the first thing that you're describing, where it's not a story, it's just a trip into the insanity of Cletus Cassidy's mind, and it's not trying to be a story beginning to end, and there's a lot of merit to that. Like, it works because I know what it's doing.
Although I tend to not... Well, I don't like abstract... I don't like to figure out what I'm... I shouldn't have to figure out what I'm looking at.
Sure.
Which is why I don't like things like David Lynch and like Kubrick and stuff like that. Like, I don't like when I have to do half of your work. And I understand that people do like that, and that's a valid thing. I get both sides
of that, yeah.
But for me personally, that's not something I enjoy.
And I don't tend to enjoy it either, but like, I can warm up to it. You can get me there.
And this is like... This
did not.
This is in some ways kind of worse, because it's like halfway there.
Yes.
It is halfway a story, and it's halfway a complete abstract piece of like art.
The other biggest problem with this is it's all somewhat surreal drawing, and that only makes sense when you're in the asylum and when you're with Batman. I would have done this with two different art styles. When you get the flashbacks with
that should start
Arkham,
real normal and become more
insane as it goes along. Yeah, because this is all about madness, and now maybe the point is supposed to be that he is already mad from the beginning, Amadeus Arkham. That's a thing to consider, because, see, we might be going against the actual point of the whole book by saying that. Like, my first instinct, like I said, I might turn against myself in a minute. My first instinct is to say that when you're doing those flashbacks, and that's mostly there for exposition, that needs to not look crazy. But then, when you get to the end, the point is the world itself is the asylum. And that human nature is madness. So that's why it all looks like that, I guess. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I also...
So I'm talking myself out of that a little bit.
I also don't buy...
But it was just hard to tell what exactly was going on, and the Amadeus stuff is more like just information about how he got there.
Yeah, I kind of want that book, but as a narrative.
Yes.
Because here it's like snippets of a journal entry, and like it's just... There's not enough of it. It descends into madness too quickly, and I don't know what's actually happening in it too quickly.
But I think that's intentional, because he has to already be insane and not know it before he builds the asylum. I think that's the point.
Okay.
Because doesn't he, like, kill someone before he even gets in the asylum?
He might kill his family?
I can't remember what happens in this book.
I have an excuse. I read it 2 weeks ago. You read it recently.
2 days ago, and I can't keep in my head.
But I feel like I would like that story better. Just the story of the guy that made Arkham descending into madness.
Me too.
But there's not enough of it here, and also...
But that doesn't have any other characters that you know, and so it's not gonna sell.
And also, it has a similar problem to a lot of things like this, where you find out that it's... The diary that you've been reading of Amadeus Arkham is also kind of the MacGuffin of the book. It's... Like the guy read it and he went crazy. You can never present your audience with information that's supposed to drive someone crazy, because I don't buy it because I read it. Does that make sense? Like the guy reads it and it completely changed his life. I read it and I was like, well, it's not enough of this.
And also, maybe this is real nitpicky or just not even valid, but I'm going to say it anyway. Are we reading it from Amadeus Arkham's perspective, or are we reading it through the lens of the guy who read it?
Mm-hmm. I assume it's from Amadeus Arkham's perspective because he wrote it.
Yeah, I guess so. But the only person that reads it is that guy.
But there's also this notion that like it's It didn't drive that guy crazy. He was already crazy because Batman does look at it and he's like, yeah, and?
Yeah. But, like, he was working at the asylum, so the idea was that he was, like, that drives him mad.
Predisposed to madness.
Yeah.
Should be a band name.
So, there's a page that I keep looking at that I cannot figure out.
Okay.
And it's about the death of Batman, of Bruce Wayne's parents.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this kind of different, and I haven't seen this done even since this kind of different take on it. Well, Batman Begins splits the middle, but I like this different take where, like, they go see not Zorro but Bambi, and Bruce has to leave the theater because he can't stand it. It scares him. It bothers him. And his dad's like, "Oh, you're whining like it's just a movie." He says it's only a movie, for God's sake. It's not real. And then he says, I love this. If you don't stop crying and act like a grown-up, I'm leaving you right here." And then they get murdered, and he leaves him, and that's why he becomes Batman.
But I thought there was more to that. I thought they went to Zorro.
This is what I don't understand. It's Bambi, and then later it's Zorro, and I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I'm supposed to take from this.
I thought,
like, we get a version of it where it's like this real sad, tragic thing before where like his parents are chastising him, and like it becomes his fault that his parents get murdered. And I wonder if Batman Begins wasn't looking at this. And then at the last panel, it's Zorro. So, like, is he just remembering it differently than I don't know what's going on.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Looking at it, when I read it, what I took from it was these are two separate incidents. And that the second time he wasn't scared and he did man up and something bad actually happened. The first time he was afraid, the second time something happened.
Oh!
So his dad said there's nothing to be afraid of, and then they go see a movie about, like, fighting back against fear, and it comes out and they get killed.
That should be on the next page.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the same page, and it made me think it was somehow the next thing that was happening. Like,
it's so surreal. You could be right. It could be about memory. I don't think it is. I think it's a split incident.
I think you're right, but, like, he's staring Batman in the face, and then we see Zorro, and I thought that denoted his parents died, and he's becoming
color
Batman.
Changes.
And, like, yeah. I think you're right ultimately, but I did not get that when I just couldn't figure it out. I didn't have a read. Why is he stabbing himself in the hand? I don't know what's going on in this book.
Actually,
yeah.
Tom King does that. You remember Batman's whole thing about suicide and he stabbed himself?
Yes.
I wonder if he pulled that from that.
Maybe so. I don't have context.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm confused
my
about.
My assumption is, in that, at least in the context of this, it is the standard, it's about having control. And that's why people cut themselves, things like that, I guess. I don't
Sure, I mean, like, I can read into it based on things I know. I just don't have enough context to be sure what it's getting at.
Yep.
And maybe it's supposed to be interpretable.
Mm-hmm.
But we get 3 pages of this, and...
Oh, there's Norman Bates.
Oh, yeah. And I don't mean to be superficial with this, or be like, hold my hand.
But this is why I don't like...
I'm just trying to get a sense of what exactly he's going for.
This is why I personally don't like things like this.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to work this hard to figure out what is happening.
Right.
If it's metaphorical and, like, I can read into it, that's...
Yeah, you make the actual events... I mean, I talked about this just recently with my Phantom Menace review. You make the events, what's actually happening, explicit, and the how and the why can be more ambiguous and let us figure that out. But what needs to be clear.
Or, like, earlier this year, Us came out.
Yes.
And pretty much everyone's accepted what I thought that movie was about, which is about high class, low class,
yes.
and that. But it's not in the text. It's subtextual.
It's subtext. Yeah.
With this, I don't know what's happening, and I have to do half the work.
There's not a grounding. Yeah, and then you're not even sure if you're doing the work correctly.
Yeah, because then I'm going to talk to other people, and they're either they're going to interpret it differently, and sometimes that's based on a wildly different. Like, they could have read an interview with Morrison when Morrison explains to me. He's like, "Well, no, you idiot. That's not what's happening." But then they didn't get that on their own.
Yeah.
They died because they read it.
And if it's not in the piece, it doesn't count.
I don't like work like this,
right. But if it's art, I mean, if it's visual art, then that's a horse of a different color. So if this had no words, like if it wasn't a narrative, and you just gave me this and this and this, and I'm talking about like just the death of Batman's parents and Batman stabbing himself, like, and you just put that in an art gallery. Like, okay, now I have just art to work with, and then it's supposed to be interpretable at that point. It's ambiguous, and that's what art does.
It's not trying to be a narrative,
right? But you wouldn't have a problem with that.
No.
You might not want to do the work there either, but that's just about art criticism.
Yeah.
You might not like doing art criticism, but like, I would much rather get this with no narrative and be asked to be an art critic. Because I feel like that. But while I'm getting a story, I don't know if I'm right. I don't have to be right if it's just be an art critic.
Now that being said,
yeah,
I respect that this exists.
Yeah.
I respect that DC put out, and I super accept that Morrison has said, this is not my take on Batman, and if I do more Batman work after this, it will not be like this.
And it wasn't.
This is a single experiment of me specifically trying to do something, and it's him pushing back. He said that this is supposed to be him pushing back against what was then the mainstream popular thing, which is specifically Dark Knight Returns and A Killing Joke, which is hyper-real. He wanted to go hyper-surrealistic,
so
which he
gave
succeeded
us the opposite.
in. Yeah,
in a story,
but still as dark and serious as those were.
And in a story about Batman and the Joker who are opposites. So, I mean, I respect that.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with this existing. I don't have a problem with anybody loving it. It's just not for me.
No, it feels like work reading it.
Yeah. And so I've never enjoyed it, and it's a book I've read.
I have that too.
3 or 4 times, like throughout my life. I'm like, all right, this is going to be the time.
In the last 2 weeks.
I'm going to get it. This is going to be the time
out.
where it's going to click with me. And it's not my thing.
And I had that every time I tried to read it, where I was like, now that I've got it in my system, something is going to wash over me. I'm going to figure it out.
It feels like a young man's book. Yep. It feels like someone who came in, and it's weird because he writes this about the age I am now.
It's a college experiment.
Yeah, but he writes this about the same age I am now. He's like 28, 29. It feels like he wrote it like he was 20 or 21. 19. He was like, I'm going to show you the weirdest Batman you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And like, that's fine. You can do that. It feels like a young man's book, and it's weird that he's as old as he is when he does it. But it's also one of his first major works. But Morrison's all over the place. Like, Morrison still can produce work like this, but he can also produce work that's not like this at all. Like, he can do that.
He's so versatile.
Yeah, and like, he can get as abstract and weird in this, but in a not dark way at all. Like, it can be just confusing, because it's so metatextual, or because there's so many things. Like,
and multiversity does all of it. Every version of Morrison there is in that book. It goes that far to the weird and that far to the grounded. That's that book.
And it's just,
but more of the weird.
It's really interesting that he can do that.
And I get that like it's decades later, and the man's done a lot of work, and he's grown and changed as an artist. Is it nuts though to think about things like the same guy that wrote Klaus? And that's always so interesting to me, just how versatile the man is.
Well, he's in his 20s here, and like he's in his 50s now. Like,
I know, but it came from the same guy. It's just crazy.
No, I know, but you see that in a lot of artists. Like you see like the guy who in his 20s made really experimental, like dark films. By the time it's George Lucas, right? Like and then he's making movies for his kids.
It's not though, because he can still do stuff like that.
That's true.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that he does still do stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other stuff I've read that's like this, I feel like I can still sink my teeth into it a little bit more.
I think he's gotten better at it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if he wrote this book now, I would know what's going on, or I would at least have the clues to figure out what's going on.
But more of the problem is in the artwork, because I just can't get a peg on what I'm looking at.
Which is why I don't like him as a concept
sometimes.
artist.
Yeah. He's a wonderful artist. I mean, like, I want to like make it really clear that I think a lot of the art in this is gorgeous.
I would
really
like it better if it was in a gallery.
But it should be in a gallery.
Yeah.
Not a comic.
Yeah, not a sequential
Not
art.
sequential. Yeah.
The big new thing I got reading this, and I want to touch on this briefly, was how 80s this feels.
Yes.
And I never gotten that before.
Dialogue?
I think in look too, but you're right. It's very. There's a hypersexuality that existed in the 80s, specifically in works like Clive Barker. A lot of horror has this, where it's almost like weaponized sexuality, and like that like gender spectrum thing where like it's trying to freak you out. I do know that the Joker is supposed to be wearing
one of the most vulgar Jokers you'll ever read,
and he's supposed to be wearing Madonna's outfit, the one with the like cones.
They wouldn't let him do it.
They said that was too far.
That's interesting considering some of the stuff he's saying in this.
Yeah.
Just that they don't have any problem with how nuts it goes in the script.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gets vulgar. There's places where I just go,
yeah. And so that was interesting because I hadn't picked up on that before, but like, this feels very Clive Barker. It feels very Hellraiser.
yeah.
And very 80s in that. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 kind of has that, but like, when you go to the more B, and I don't mean B as in like exactly trashy like bad shark movies. I mean like not A pictures.
Right.
The second level of films. When you look at horror films there in the 80s, a lot of it feels like this.
Well, you mean like not major studio stuff?
Yeah.
But stuff that's still...
We're not like big movies, like not blockbusters, but like also not trash. Like you're like in that in between, which is what B movies originally were.
Right.
I guess. Well, maybe not, but like that in between space that doesn't exist anymore. A lot of horror movies felt like this, and even some of the, like Lost Boys has that to some degree, and like that is a bigger studio picture. It has that weird like hyper.
But those are the influences.
But this is also the era of like, it's the AIDS epidemic. It's people feeling comfortable coming out as gay.
Good point.
And people. It's in the 90s too. Like this is what gets us to the Wachowskis and the leather fetish stuff in the Matrix and those clubs, and like I found all of that really interesting just as a time capsule where I was like, oh yeah, this is into all that 80s fetish stuff, and that's kind of gone away in culture as I think that stuff's been more accepted and it's not as like hyper in your face. But that was, to me, reading this book this time, that was the most interesting thing. Was I was like, oh yeah, this. Because when I first read it, it felt like nothing else. Where I was like, this is weird. And like now I'm like, oh, I can put it in its time and place, and I can see how it's influenced by the things around it, and okay, like
and to some degree how it influences after.
Yeah, like I've got a handle on it now. I still don't like it. And I don't think it's bad. It's not the kind of thing I like.
Yeah.
And I love Morrison. It makes me sad, but like it feels like I don't think you would do this book now.
No, I don't either.
It feels like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns happen, and the floodgates are open. Let's try and do adult things. And he was like, I'll do something really adult.
Yeah,
but I actually feel like...
And again, I want to do something as different from that as possible. So, like, instead of hyper-realistic, like, what if superheroes really existed, I'm going to show you a thing that can't exist, and where you won't even totally know what you're looking at.
It's interesting because, like so much of that stuff put in a different way, this also feels immature to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not Rob Liefeld immature, where it's like, I'm gonna be real dark and serious because everyone's gonna be dying and everyone's gonna have huge monsters and gonna shoot everybody. He wouldn't make this book now.
Yeah.
It feels immature to me.
But he'll get this weird and out there. Yeah.
This feels like someone who just graduated college or is still in college who like has all these ideas they never thought about. Like, you never thought about it this way, right?
But you know what he nails though? He nails madness.
He does.
He nails psychopathy.
He does. But I don't know how much that's him and how much that's helped by the art.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think it needs words. Although some of the words help. Like, I don't think it needs as many words. But like, the Joker is written here differently than in anything else.
And even his other Jokers.
Yeah. I mean,
the Super Sandy thing, he continues to use.
And I was going to ask you if that was the first place that ever comes up, because that's,
as far as I know,
that's become kind of mainstream. Like the notion, we do that a lot. Like the notion that the Joker is maybe not actually crazy, but is on some other plane of sanity.
It's like that thing in The Predator where like they suggest autism is like the next level of human evolution. It's kind of like that. That's basically what they suggest. He's not crazy. He's the next step in our evolution of processing information. I think it gets dropped after this. Morrison brings it back when he does his Batman run, and then it gets repopularized.
Yeah, but I think that there are other versions of the Joker even before that happens that are using it, that are whether they're looking at this or not, that do that sort of thing in a more subtle way. Because this suggests that the Joker's unpredictability comes from the super sanity, and that he is hardly a person. That from day to day he's different, and animated series did him that way.
Okay, here's what I don't like about that.
Yeah.
I don't like putting such a fine point on it. And I've never liked it, and this is me getting really kind of nitpicky, but like, you can't tell me that every day he wakes up and watches TV, and because Looney Tunes was on, he's like a wacky guy, and because the news was on, he's like a serial killer.
Because of master plans and stuff?
Yeah, because he makes plans that span.
Yeah.
He's also like really detail oriented.
That's why I like how Dark Knight handles that, because there's this like big kind of ambiguity about how much he really is planning and how much he's just making it up as he goes along.
And it works better for me.
But he's got an ideology in that movie. He's not a that movie gives you the Joker might not be insane thing, but he is one person.
I think Morrison fixes it in his Batman run, where he suggests that he doesn't wake up every day and be a different person. He has gone through phases where he completely evolves, which is more of a meta commentary on like, he started as a killer, and then he became a jokester, and then he became a little bit like a darker jokester, and then he became
Snyder
a serial
tries
killer.
to do that too.
And like that's his explanation for it's building on this, but it's more long term than it is day to day. The day to day thing is an interesting idea, but not for this character who I've seen before.
But it maybe works okay in a singular piece that's hardly
and
canonical
canon,
or doesn't fit in anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine here.
Yeah, it's fine. It's an interesting idea.
I don't have hardly anything to say about any of the other villains. They kind of just show up and leave, right?
Yeah, like
I don't know what Mad Hatter's doing, except that we have this whole Lewis Carroll.
Yes, I was gonna say he's alluding to Lewis Carroll. I thought it was weird to use Lewis Carroll and use Mad Hatter, but not make Mad Hatter important in any way.
Yeah, you'd think he'd be the main villain of this or something.
Yeah,
or like Joker's right hand man or something.
Yeah, like he factor in.
He just shows up. Yeah, and they don't even feel that connected.
The Lewis Carroll thing also felt juvenile. Like it, and we're still doing this, but like whenever somebody does Insanity, it's like, oh, it's like Alice in Wonderland. I'm like, yeah, but that book makes sense. Like it makes sense in how it doesn't make sense, right? Like that's.
But I will say this is not just doing that, but is also building on like lines and themes from that book.
Yeah.
Because the major line that stuck with me that. Something stuck with me, you guys. That is playing through this is that line of like where Alice says, "I'm not mad," or like, "I don't think I'm mad." It's like, well, you wouldn't be here if you weren't. And that's kind of the crux of the story.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there a Discovery episode where somebody keeps narrating Lewis Carroll while they're climbing through ducks?
I think so, actually. Was it Lewis? I think you're right. I think that's true. Yes.
Yeah. We could ask one.
Also, this is redundant coming from me. Pre-juvenile there too.
Yeah. And when I say juvenile, I don't mean like it's a kid's book. I mean this sounds like someone who just took a bunch of classes.
Yes.
And like he hasn't worked. It's weird because he's older than I think he should be.
Amateurish.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
He hasn't refined any of these ideas. He just has them. It's like he was just introduced to all these ideas, and he immediately used them. And hasn't refined what he wants to do with them. And like, later, when he does Batman, he will have refined some of these.
It's not this bad. This is making this sound worse than it is, but it is that high school poetry thing.
Yes, it is that.
My mind was blown, and so yours will be too. Like, no one that will read this has ever heard of the things that I just found out about. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, these ideas just came from on high. I'm the first person that has ever read them, and I'm going to deliver them to the masses.
It feels a lot like that, but also it should be remembered that when this comes out, comics are still mostly read by kids.
Good point.
A 14-year-old is going to read this book. I mean, I wasn't, like, I read it at 14, but like a 14-year-old is going to read, I was just confused. But theoretically, a 14-year-old, the right 14-year-old is going to read that book and their mind is going to be blown.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, like...
something like Watchmen or Dark Knight Returns are not that way. Those like, an adult can read those and have, like a real profound experience with it, and you wouldn't be like, well, only a child should be like, what?
Yeah. Although I guess I am like, what? But like, and it's also putting it in its context, in its time and place. Like, there's not a lot around this. We've done a lot like this since then.
Yeah.
So like, maybe it's not fair to say like.
Well, especially visually, this influences like, I don't know, half of Vertigo. I mean,
yeah. Well, and he works on a lot of Vertigo. But
okay then, yeah.
He does all of the covers for Sandman.
I thumbed through Constantine that looks like this.
He's done some Constantine.
Oh, has he? Okay, must have been him then.
He does.
Didn't know that.
The Constantine issue of Books of Magic? He does one of the issues of Books of Magic.
Whenever I look at a thing like this, I assume it's not a comic artist. I assume this is the only comic book they ever did, and that they're usually painting.
It was like a clicky thing, I think, where like he worked with a couple of specific people, and like I think Neil Gaiman brings him in, or like because he he didn't keep working. Kind of like Neil Gaiman, he didn't keep working. He was here for the weird British New Wave. I don't know if he's British, but like he was part of that. And then he like kind of went away. Like I think he's still doing art, just not comic book art.
Sure.
And he's not doing covers anymore. But
does he ever do anything that looks more mainstream?
Or this is the most mainstream thing I've ever seen him do.
Interesting.
Because it's the most not abstract or not surreal. Like
wow.
There are figures. And when he does things like the issue that I think he did in Books of Magic, it looks like this. Like this is the closest I think he can get to like figures doing things that you can follow from panel to panel. Most of his artwork's not like that. It's a bunch of stuff. Like look at some of the Sandman covers and like it's a bunch of stuff that like represents what's happening in the issue, kind of, but like it's all not interpretive, but like it's all symbolic. He's a symbolic artist.
And there's a bunch of
and he also did Mirror Mask. I don't know if you've ever heard of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
He is the main. I think he directed Mirror Mask. And it imagine a film that looks like this book.
I can't.
And the script is written by Neil Gaiman. Like
weird.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of symbols in this book that I don't know how to read, and like I think if I read this and started writing, something interesting might come out. It might be nonsense, but like just
might be mad.
Just looking at this and trying to talk about it, my mind shuts down. I look at the symbols and I go, I don't know what exactly he's doing with this in the thing, and if I like really, really tried, I might come up with something kind of interesting, but it repels me almost. It almost makes me not like, what are the clownfish doing? I don't know if I care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that comes up 2 or 3 times. It's a symbol of something. Is it just the Joker? Like what is it? Like,
and I'm sure there's someone that this is the kind of work, and this is what I hate most about these kinds of work, is 3 different people come up and go, well, it's obviously this. You're just not getting it.
Yeah.
And they will give me 3 different answers. Then it's not obviously anything. It may have obviously been that to you, but it's not obviously anything. And if you have to go to the creator to be
you
told
might have
what
a
it
cool
is,
read on it.
then it didn't work.
Yeah, or it's meant to be that ambiguous and it can mean whatever to anybody. And
but then don't try to explain it to me. Just say it's ambiguous and it means whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah, or say here's...
Because that's where all of those things fall down.
Yeah, I think... Again, I don't want to go in circles. Like, this reads too much like a mainstream narrative to get away with this. For me, it does. But could a comic book be a Rorschach test? Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what you're describing as a Rorschach, or what we're describing as a Rorschach test.
And there are indie comics that go really abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like panel 1's a banana, panel 2's like a sword, panel 3 is a triangle. You draw your own conclusions.
What did you see?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're talking about a comic that has Rorschach tests in it. Is that where Batman Forever comes from?
It might be, because that's also clearly a bat.
yeah. You can't see it. Now, some of the things Joker says it is, I can see how you could I can see how you could look at that and ignore the bat and get those things in it. You would not take one glance at that and not say, it's a bat. It's a bat!
Well, you wouldn't turn to Batman, like, because it's supposed to be like Batman looks at it and it's like, it's interesting, like in Batman Forever, it's interesting you saw a bat. Like, no! If you saw other things, that's fine, but if you show that picture to Batman, it doesn't mean anything psychologically that he saw a bat. He's around bats a lot, he's got a big bat on his chest. Like,
what did we learn
he's
here?
He's thinking about bats. That's not a crazy thing, that's just like...
I think I actually said that back in the day when I did the replay. Like, that's a bat! Okay?
Like if you showed me like a picture that kind of looks like a book, I think about books a lot. It's probably a book. Doesn't mean anything about me psychologically. Like beyond that, I think about books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that doesn't say anything about Batman. Like that doesn't work as a like he might also be crazy thing, which is kind of how they play in Batman Forever a little bit. And like it's dumb.
So also like even if you could see other things in that, like even if he wasn't Batman, he lives in Gotham where there's Batman, and Gotham like revolves around Batman. So I would think 98% of the people that would look at that live in Gotham would also see a bat.
Yeah. Yeah. That's also an issue with Batman Forever. When they go inside his brain, there's a big bat there.
Yes.
And he's like, who might have bats on the brain? It's like, well,
anyone that lives in
force.
Oh yeah, it's a ball for the police. He didn't learn anything. It could have been Gordon.
Yeah, but no. I mean,
but
Batman is the police force in that scene. Like,
yes,
Gordon doesn't do anything.
Or was it a police ball? There were police there.
Yeah, there were police there. But still, like, my point is.
Yeah.
My point is.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
That could have been anyone in Gotham City.
Yeah, they all have bats on the brain.
Yeah.
So, going to character and story plays for just a second, and like, it's hard to... This is a difficult thing to criticize because of the ways in which it doesn't want to be traditional narrative, but, like, you're doing a psychological study of a Batman that does not feel like a fully formed human being to me. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
This is a Batman that just, like, yells things like, filthy degenerate! And I'm like, that's not a person.
Yeah, no.
Nobody talks like that.
He kind of doesn't feel like Batman. Like, and he's really monosyllabic. I know Batman is. Although Batman's not that fully yet.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten to that yet exactly. We're starting to get there, but we're not there fully.
No, but like 91, 92? Like, we're really doing that?
Mm-hmm. But, like, yeah, it just... It doesn't feel like a fully formed Batman, so, like, it doesn't feel like... Like, this is the thing that Tom King does do. Where, like, I know who his Batman is, so when he does some weirder things that explore the character, I can interpret it because I know who his Batman is. Like, not even just, like, who Batman is, I know who his Batman is.
But I don't have a context enough for this Batman.
Yeah, this is... Generically, like, this is Batman.
Yeah, so, like, he's an elemental character before he's a person, but the problem is it's a character study, sort of.
Yeah, but I don't know who he is as his character.
What do you think of... Or do you have a read on this, or is this even the thing you want to explore? When you get to the end and Joker calls again the rest of the world like madness in the asylum, and says, like, we have a place for you here if you want to get out of the asylum.
I just felt cutesy to me.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't assume that... Like, I just assumed that, like, you put all the crazy people in one place, and that's the sanest place. Like, if everyone's crazy, like, this is where you put the crazy? I don't know. It just felt cutesy to me.
Yeah. Like, it...
I get it. I feel like it wants to be deep, but it doesn't feel deep. It feels cutesy.
It wants to be the crux of the story, I think. I mean, like, it seems like it reads like the point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't entirely know what to make of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is beyond the obvious. But I don't think it makes the asylum the sanest place. It seems more like it's just there's no getting away from it.
But then how is it?
Is everyone crazy? No one is. Like is Batman any different than anybody else?
Well, maybe the asylum's the only place where people can admit they're crazy.
Okay.
And so, like, if you want to, like, let your hair down, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Which also might tie into the hypersexuality 80s thing.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I don't like this book, and like I feel like I'm gonna get like crucified for that. But then at the same time, I don't feel people bring it up that often either.
Not anymore. There was a time when they did.
They did,
and I have a theory about that.
And around Dark Knight, because we know this is a book that Heath Ledger read. I almost said wrote.
You might not agree with this. You might think this is a crazy thing to say. There are so many things, especially, including and especially the Arkham video games, that are called Arkham and use that setting since then. We've forgotten about it because it's like a major thing we do all the time now.
Yeah, it's interesting because when the game was announced, people were like, is it an adaptation of that graphic novel?
And in some ways it is.
Yeah. And I think that's what Paul Dini said. It's like, well, it's
that's
kind of
the
inspired
setting
by
of it, yeah.
Once the villains took over, and like there's similarities.
That is so popular, and for some people is synonymous with Batman in a way that, like, I really believe this. I think the Arkham games for some people are synonymous with Batman in the way that the 60s show was for people and the 89 movie was for people.
Well, and also the animated series.
Yes. And I just think that it's been supplanted.
You might be
by
right.
other things called Arkham.
Well,
I think it's that simple.
I also think that, like...
Not Arkham Manor. Nobody cares about that.
I think the second...
But other things.
I think the, like... So, like, obviously this book's popular when it comes out, and I think it's repopularized when Dark Knight comes out, because we're doing a bunch of Jokers. Or we're drawing attention to a bunch of Joker
Long
things.
Halloween was too.
Because these are the things that they cite.
Mm-hmm.
And we're republishing a lot of this. Like, those are the things that, like, we're drawing focus to, because these are the things Nolan has said that he cites. And we know Heath Ledger read this book, and that this was, like, one of... I think he said... I think Heath Ledger said this was the book that inspired him most on the take on the character.
Interesting.
I think it's been a long time since I read that stuff.
Very different.
Yes. But
I do like the Joker's look in this, though.
I do.
I mean, I like how unreal it looks.
I also like the dialogue. For all of it, like I like the handwritten.
You mean what it looks like?
Yeah. I like the lettering. The lettering is.
I found it hard to look at.
Yeah.
Like it was difficult to read, but as part of the artwork, I'm with you.
Again, if this was art in a gallery.
And isn't it weird? I said he's like super vulgar, and there are places where like I just don't even want to think about what he's saying, which is the point. But it's also sometimes sort of a funny Joker. Like, he doesn't say anything that's like laugh out loud funny necessarily, but like
the opening bit is genuinely funny. You're
right. The April Fool's Day joke.
Yeah, but
also that gets real coincidental, doesn't it? All the stuff that happens exactly on April Fool or on April 1st.
Yeah.
With the Arkham, with the Amadeus Arkham, and then the thing that Joker's talking about. Like, that's kind of weird.
But I think that since The Dark Knight came out, well, first of all, I think The Dark Knight is a big deal. Has a big thing to do with supplanting this. But also, we've done a couple of big Joker things since then. And I think this has just kind of gotten lost in the shuffle. There's a couple of Joker stories that have as well. Nobody also no one ever mentions the Brubaker one, the Man Who Laughs. That never gets brought up anymore.
Not anymore. Used to all the time. And it's been remade like 4 times.
Has it?
But
or you mean re-released?
No, I mean like we keep making different versions of it.
Oh, okay. Just like I guess yeah. When he did that, that was one of the first times that we went back and retold the Batman meets the Joker story.
I thought other people had even done it, but well, maybe before that. Maybe it's not even.
I think it's happened one. I think it's happened a couple of times, but like it was kind of a big deal when he did it.
Okay. Was there ever a time that this book was as popular as Killing Joke, or more popular than Killing Joke?
The trade I have claims it's the highest-selling graphic novel of all time. Which can't be possible because Watchmen exists, but also Dark Knight Returns.
And like 4 years before this?
And Killing Joke, but maybe this does outsell Killing Joke. I don't know.
Weird.
Yeah.
I mean, not now.
They might still say it. I don't know. I haven't looked at the modern trade just, but the one that I got around the time of Dark Knight, maybe a year or two before Dark Knight comes out, right after Dark Knight.
I have this sometimes. We've been at this for 50 minutes. I don't feel like we've talked about this book. Like, I mean, we have, but you know what I mean?
Yep. But like because it's all just trying to decipher like what's there, and it's just not my thing. I'm okay with it kind of being relegated back to history, where it's like it was important for its time, but
it matters. I'm glad I looked at it once. But I guess 3 times I looked. But like it doesn't. Reading it did not entice me to want to read into it.
Yeah.
Like I didn't do a lot of that.
I feel like it doesn't do enough work to make me feel like I want to meet it halfway.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of that analysis because it didn't make me want to. Which is my biggest problem with it, I guess.
Yeah. Because I've read things that meet you halfway. I've read Morrison things that meet you halfway where it's like, okay, this means something. What does this mean?
And like you can get enough out of a pattern or something to read it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested to see how many of our viewers feel the way we do about this book. And how many people love it? Because
have we created a safe place where people can come and be like, I also don't like this book and never got it?
I mean, I hope so. Feel free to tell us because I'd like to know. Because I'm sure there are still a lot of people that swear by this book, and that's cool too. And I just want
to know how many of those people have gone back to it.
Yeah, because
or like read it when they were 16 and had their mind blown and haven't read since.
Yeah, because we all know I've had that with stuff.
A bunch.
Like,
Spawn.
I'm not gonna name any. Okay, but he's going.
There's another big one.
Wasn't there another big one?
There's
yeah, those 2 were the big ones.
But there's another big one.
I'm scared to death to go back to Kingdom Come, because I know you don't love that book.
But I read that as a teenager. Like it's been over 10 years probably since I read that.
I'm afraid I'm gonna go back to that and not like it anymore. No, you're right. There is something else that I used to swear was great, and then felt dumb when I went back.
Birds of Prey's not as good as we thought it was.
The TV show?
Yeah, the TV show.
The pilot was really hard to do a commentary on. It was the worst viewing I've ever had of that.
Because it's not that good.
Someday I'll do a rewind. I guess. I can't believe we have a Birds of Prey movie out. There's actually going to be a reason to put, and you know, a million YouTube channels will do this. But
do you remember the Birds of Prey TV show? But you've been talking about it for 10 years.
I have. I sure have. You know what, though? I still stand by it. It's better than Smallville.
The pilot?
Yeah.
Or just the whole show?
Overall, the show is better than a lot of...
I think it finds its voice by the end. Like, I think season 2 of that show would have been better than Smallville ever was.
Yeah, you're right. Because it's not better than it ever was.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, anyway, we're off the rails now. Everybody, thanks as always for watching. Sure appreciate it. Eric, thanks for going back to this and talking about it with me. I appreciate it. I really appreciate not having to talk about this by myself.
You would have gone mad.
I would have. You could have seen it happen on camera. I mean, I guess if Spawn didn't completely do me in, this probably would not have. Thanks again for watching, folks. Leave your comments. Let us know what you think about this book.
But there's something here, unlike in Spawn. Also, this book is probably an influence on Spawn.
Absolutely. Both very good points. Anyway, thanks again, folks. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you again on the next Comic Vault. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Bye, everybody.